15.
I hope you all had a good drink, so that makes it a little easier for me. Because, well, I was asked to do this by 5 times 15, and, well, you just heard that I'm a fashion designer, so usually there's like a nice video introducing me with all the stars and, you know, all the beauty, the glamour of fashion, but now I'm here on my own, and I feel kind of naked in front of you. So, well, I'll start anyway. So, yeah, I talk about fashion, and when I do that, I think you should just look at yourself now and really see, you know, what are you wearing today, and why are you wearing what you're wearing, and where was it made, and when did you buy it, and why did you buy it? Do you care for your clothes? Do you save up for them? Do you have a wardrobe that fits your personality? A lot of people have opinions, and a lot of people know about fashion. Everybody, you know, sort of meets fashion in one way or another, subconsciously or consciously, and the whole day you're surrounded by fashion. You go to a wedding maybe, or you need something for a party or for an interview, or you have to do a 5 times 15 talk. And or maybe you stand in line to get the newest sneaker. Or maybe you're Dutch and you wait for the sales to come. Or maybe you buy just a lipstick because you want to feel better. And or you buy a perfume to make up with your girlfriend. Well, fashion influences everyone, and the way you dress and the way you present yourself, sort of, what did I want to say? Yeah, it influences how people perceive you and how you're being perceived. So, well, you know, my name is Rvdk. And I've worked as a designer in the luxury fashion industry for 25 years before I started my own sustainable couture brand. Now, in those 25 years, I've worked in New York, Paris, Milan, Munich, even in Austria. And I always worked in high-end fashion. But since 5 years, I made a radical change, and I started to do something for myself, which is my label, Rvdk. So, in the 25 years that I worked, or 30 years now, after those 5 extra years, I've seen a lot of changes. You saw the rise of social media, and that changed a lot. I mean, people's appetite for constant newness became the blueprint for the fast fashion retailers, and fashion has become a disposable product, really, up to a point where you can now buy a dress for the price of a cappuccino. So people think about fashion in a very different way than when I grew up. When I grew up, you saved, you know, for something that you really wanted, and then once you had it, you wore it only for a special occasion. When you had new shoes, you bought them, you put them near your bed, so when you woke up, you could look at them immediately. You know, there was excitement, and there was, you know, you really made, you made sure that you had special things and that fit to you and that you really wanted. But now, things are very different. If you know, now I'm going to read this from my paper. The world consumes about 80 billion new pieces of clothing every year on a population of about 7.8 million. So that means everyone on this earth buys 10 pieces of clothing a year. Now, that's 400% more than 2 decades ago. And then this is another one. The average American now generates 82 pounds of textile waste each year. I mean, you know, what are we trying to do here? So I started this thing very intuitively, not really thinking about, you know, everything that was going on. I sort of knew what was going on, but I never really went into in depth in the real problems that we have right now. But the more and more I look into it, the more I start to realize that my intuition was so right. So, yeah, that's why I'm standing here now. Then I'm going to open another can of worms. High fashion, you know, it's all about glamour, beauty. You have fashion shows. You know, luxury fashion is seducing you with a dream. And, you know, the big brands now see so many opportunities to sell that dream. So the couture houses now, of one of them, they do like 10 shows a year. And for these shows, editors get flown in all over the world. One time the show is in Seoul, the other time it's in Havana. And then they're in this, you know, environment where they build a decor that costs, I don't know how many millions, for like a 10-minute show. And so all these clothes that are being presented, they could go to the stores. Now, if you think there's 10 shows a year, that means like every 6-8 weeks, there's like new clothes in the store. Doesn't that ring a bell? Isn't that like fast fashion? And now we're talking about luxury fashion. Luxury fashion should be about exclusivity. But if you then think that some of those brands have like 180 stores in the world, and in those 180 stores, there's the same jacket everywhere. So this beautiful jacket that you see on the runway, that you dream about, and that you pay $5,000 for, or euros or pounds, you know, just to name a number. The same jacket is worn by this woman in Brussels, and by this woman in Seoul, and this woman in LA. So you spend all this money for a beautiful jacket, sure, but what does that mean? You know, how exclusive is that? So more and more, I started to think that things need to be different. And then last year, this news came out, and I actually hadn't even read it, but they called me from the Dutch journal, the Journaal, you know, the evening news. And they said, what is your response to Burberry burning 32 million euro worth of merchandise? And I was like, okay. I knew this was happening, but I didn't really realize that it was really happening. I mean, now it's out in the open. So these are perfectly beautiful things. Apparently not beautiful enough to get bought by everyone. But they decided to burn them because they want to keep their brand, you know, valuable. Now, Burberry, they go on sale. They have outlets. So they have enough ways to like get rid of all their stuff. But then you have brands like Chanel, then you have brands like Hermès, Louis Vuitton. They never go on sale. It's all the highest luxury in the world, and they never go on sale. Now, I just told you about how many shows they do a year and how many collections they bring out. So just imagine, like if after 6-7 weeks, they don't have 100% sell-through in their stores. So what do you have left over? There's, you know, I cannot believe they sell everything. So what happens with those clothes? Do you know? I don't know. But I have an idea from hearing Burberry's story. So, and then I'm not even talking about how the collections are designed, because when you design a collection, you start with a theme, which makes it very easy for everyone to understand later. You work with a design team. You have a theme, you have a color card, you dye fabrics in certain ways, you develop all this stuff, and in the end, you make an edit from what you really use. So, say like 60% of what you've developed is not going to be used for your collection. So that's all trash. So there is a lot of waste, and we're always talking about fast fashion, but luxury fashion does exactly the same thing. So, you know, people become aware of it. So sustainability now has become the biggest fashionable word in fashion. There's organizations that work with the big brands, that advise them and that tell them to do certain projects They make certain improvements in the way they work and the way they treat their waste and everything. And with that, they get paid for that a lot. And then you get this big stamp that you're, doing your ecological good for the fashion world. So people are happy and, wow, they're doing great. They got the stamp. And then there's all these brands now screaming about, we're not using fur anymore. Well, great, but is that so good? Because then you have them parading all this fake fur on the catwalks. Now, fake fur is pure plastic that will never go away. The people that make it get respiratory problems. So, what are we winning here? I mean, the research shows that the actual fur is actually doing less harm. I mean, if you have, I'm not talking about a mink, but if you talk about coyotes or, if you really look into it, much more harm is done by using fake fur. But that's now the new thing to show everyone we're doing sustainable fashion, we're ethical. Anyway, enough of that. When you're a designer, you do research. You go around, and on one of my last trips, when I was working as a consultant, I went around New York, and I look at all these stores, and you go into all the big department stores, the Barnes, New York, and Bergdorf's and Saks Fifth Avenue, and then you go to all the boutiques, and you look what everyone has. And it's all beautifully made, and, interesting things, and, very nice, all merchandising groups, and, I really got it. It's like, okay, yeah, I see where it comes from, and very nice. But somehow, none of these clothes really got to me. So I thought, what is this? And why can't I remember anything that I've seen? And then I walked into this store where they sell vintage couture. And there's this lady. She buys up collections from people that have collected couture over the years. So, you see like a Saint Laurent jacket, you see a Valentino coat, you see an Ungaro dress, you see all these really beautiful pieces. And my heart starts beating because when I look at these pieces, I can see the time they were made in, and I can see the women who wore them. I can really feel that the people who made them really made an effort making them. There's little defaults when they put in the sleeve or something. Now, all the clothes that I'd seen the whole day were all perfectly made, even better made than what I saw in this store. But they're all killed. They're all pressed to death. All this high-tech machinery kills the clothes to me. So I saw these beautiful vintage pieces, and I thought, these pieces have a soul. These are really clothes that you want to keep, that you will never throw away. And that's why they've lasted all this time, like 30, 40, 50 years later. You look at them, and you still think, these are amazing. So I thought, this is what I want to be doing. I don't want to be adding to the heap of wasteful fashion that people are doing now. No, I want to make clothes that people care for, that people keep in their closets, and that they never throw away. So when I came back to Amsterdam, I had collected over the years all these like pieces of fabrics and leathers and skins and buttons and pieces of lace and all these different fabrics that I sort of liked and that I found on my travels, and even things that I had, found at a vintage store, or, I had all this stuff around me, and I thought, I'm just going to be working with what I have here at home. So I just started making clothes, really, one by one, without a theme, just with my intuition, and just making a beautiful jacket, a great pair of pants, an evening dress. Nothing had to do with one another. They're all, just with things that I had around me. But they made me feel so good because I thought, this is really what I want. And these clothes are really, they sort of have the same feeling as those clothes that I saw in this vintage store. And the idea was for me to sort of build a wardrobe of this eccentric woman, like in that vintage store, all these crazy pieces that have nothing to do with one another, because that sort of spiked my interest. not these formulaic collections with a theme where you know from A to Z already where it came from and where everything's perfectly merchandised. No, I wanted it to be about the imperfections because people have touched it by hands, people that really love making fashion. So I've been doing that then when I started for a few months, and I had this whole rack of clothes. And then what? Because I wasn't really planning on, building a fashion company, because I know how difficult it is, and it's basically impossible. And if you don't have all the money in the world and the marketing machines behind you, it's never going to happen. But I had done these clothes, so I thought, okay, I better show them to some people that I admire in fashion. So I got a PR in Paris, and I went there during couture, because couture is, sort of like the highest thing in fashion, and Paris is where you have to be. So, we invited a few editors, a few of my favorite people that I didn't really know that well, but, they came, thank God, and they instantly responded to these clothes. I think they had the same response as that I had to these vintage clothes, like, 6 months prior. And they could feel there was something going on here. So they started talking, they said, oh, that guy is doing something really interesting, and, and then I told my story. Well, basically, everything's done with existing materials. Oh, okay, funny. And now if I had gone around and say, like, I'm going to do sustainable couture, I don't think any of them would have come. And everybody would have thought, like, oh, this is, hemp, boring colors, the stuff that, hairy armpits, the things that that you don't want to associate with high fashion. So my thing was, I want to convince these people with really exciting, exhilarating clothes that tell a story that makes them think differently. And also it made me think differently, because, like I said, I'm not an activist. I don't do demonstrations and everything, but I have a certain conviction that comes from me, and I just had to get it out. So more and more, now I've worked for, how long is it now? 5 years on this. And we've done 9 wardrobes. I'm working on the 10th now. So, we've dressed all these Hollywood stars in the meantime. Half of them don't even know how I work, but they just love the clothes because they're glamorous and they're new and they sense something is different than from the other brands. I've dressed Victoria's Secret girls, I've dressed pop singers, I've dressed politicians, women of all sizes, backgrounds and races, in sustainable couture. And the good thing is that after my 6th wardrobe, I was invited by the Fédération de la Haute Couture, which is a very prestigious federation in Paris that decides who is going to show at couture. And they had approached my PR and said, why isn't Ronald doing a show? Now, usually you have to apply and go to this whole spiel to get a place. But we were invited, so I thought, okay, let's do it. So we did the show, which costs a crazy amount of money. And here we stand next to Chanel, 9.7 billion, Dior, 5.6 billion. Well, I won't even mention what we are, but I don't know. But, we still, we have the same customers. We had Celine Dion sitting in our small little room, and she skipped Chanel, she skipped Dior. So we're doing something right, with no money, just with our passion. Everyone I work with is as passionate as I am about what we do. So we're getting pretty far. Now, my question, and the biggest issue, of course, is how do I turn this PR success and make it into a successful new couture brand for the future? So if I would go the traditional way, what's going to happen. You've just heard what will happen. And if I start producing more and more clothes, I'm losing the exclusivity, and I'm losing the handwork and the love that I really like. So I want to keep it exclusive, and I want to keep it really small, but I still want to relay a message that we have, and I still want people to get inspired. Now, when you start talking to investors, they want a classic business model because that's what they understand. So if I start talking about, the sustainability and about keeping it small, you can see the eyeballs, going in the back of their heads and thinking like, that guy's crazy, he's dressing Katy Perry. I mean, we can just, milk it. But that's really where we don't want to go. So, so what we did is we tried to find like-minded people that care about the world and that care about fashion and that are, sort of become ambassadors for what we stand for. So we find some people to help us a little bit and to invest small amounts of money. So this is where we stand now. And my goal now would be, for example, in growing, is that we work with all these other companies. Now, wouldn't it be great if Louis Vuitton called me and said, listen, we have all this dead stock. We have all these fabrics. Why don't we do a project together? I use their infrastructure, their materials, and we make something really exciting. And, I think it's a win-win situation. Problem is, they don't want to know that they have this problem. So I don't even get there. I don't get near those people. I mean, what do I do? So we started locally with a company called Filling Pieces. They do streetwear, and I asked them, do you have any leftover stock that we could probably work with? And they said, oh yeah, we have this and that and that. And I said, well, maybe we can do something together. So for my last show, or for the show before, we did some sneakers, and the last show we even did a whole complete outfit with their leftovers. And we put it in our couture show. So that was for me to show the world, like, okay, you can do great stuff with what people throw away, Just if you put it in the right context, and if you're creative, you can, from waste, you can make the most beautiful stuff. How far am I, minute-wise? Is anybody timing? Anyway, the other day, somebody approached me, which is really great. He is making soap from orange peels. Now, when I hear that, I get so excited. But the problem was, it had that sort of hairy armpit feeling to it, So he comes to us because he thinks like, hey, it's all about glamour and it's all about exciting fashion, what they do, and it looks like luxury. So now we're tomorrow I actually meet him again, and we're going to try to make, a very high-end luxury soap out of his orange peel idea. Because it's the same thing. If you go to the Hema, or if you go to Ethos and you buy a little soap, and you go to Chanel, you buy a soap, okay, there is a difference, but there's not that much difference. It's all about context and presentation. This is what fashion does. So, I want to be a luxury, high-end fashion brand, but I want to use all these leftovers that we have in the world and make beautiful, high-end products and make people dream at the same time, that they don't feel like, they got something that is trash, but they got something that's really valuable and that's really exciting and new, and at the same time, you don't have to feel so bad that you bought it. So I think next time, you guys, if you in a couple of years, if you go and travel, which you shouldn't do by plane, but so is a bad example. But if you go to a drugstore and you see all these perfume brands, and you see Chanel and Dior and Gucci, and if you see this label on a perfume bottle, and you have a sustainable perfume, wouldn't you rather buy that than the Chanel? I would know what to buy. Anyway, so besides that, I want everyone to be inspired tonight by my talk, to buy consciously. and to create your own personal wardrobe that says something about your personality, so that you buy pieces that you care about, that become a part of you. Whether it's a basic, if you buy a basic, buy something that's good, that's going to last. Don't buy a shitty quality that you're going to throw away, because don't add to the enormous waste that we have in the world. And to finish it all up, I'm also going to ask you for help, because I've been toying with one philosophical question. I've really been thinking, does a high-end fashion brand of the future actually need to sell products to be a profitable company? Because research shows that the moment you've bought the actual product that you got so excited about, the moment you have it, the excitement is over. So my idea is, and this is probably a very, it's sort of like a virtual idea. In a fashion world, you buy something you buy a part of a dream. So, I have my dream, I have my story. So if you guys want to support it, you buy a piece, you buy a lipstick or something, but can there be something that is virtual or something that's not a product? Or maybe it's a membership, I don't know. If you guys have any ideas on this, because I always ask these questions to the younger generation, and I hope that they come with all these great, exciting ideas, but so far I've not been so lucky. So maybe there's someone in this room that says, like, you should be doing this, you should be doing that. And then we're in business, because we need to be in business. Thank you very much. Oh, I forgot. I brought one jacket, very quickly. So this is jacket from the first collection. This was actually made out of the guy who wove this, who was weaving this. His parents passed away. And he had all these clothes, and he didn't know what to do with them. So we decided to rip them all apart. And then we wove them into a new fabric. So this is the most sustainable thing you can have. And this is a thing that you will care for forever, because this was from your parents. And this is what fashion can do. And it's not, this is not garbage. This is something, well, it's quite beautiful, I think. But, just as an example. Thank you.